you will be able to take something home after the end of today. So if you will come, thank you very much, and special thanks to our guest of honor. I know you're very busy and you were able to get time for us. We don't take that for granted. Thank you very much, and everyone else, please feel welcome.
Thank you so much for those kind remarks and for starting us off. Ladies and gentlemen, the United Nations Women has been very critical. We have the country representative here, Madam Muturi, to be able to share the experiences of her while being partners together with the ORPP in the preparation of this evaluation. Thank you so much, Madam Muturi. Karibu sana makofi.
The Chief, let me also recognize the Registrar of Political Parties, Madam Anne Nderitu, and perhaps role that they play in anchoring democracy and competitive politics in Kenya. I would also like to appreciate the commitment of the ORPP to entrench inclusivity exemplified by this post-election evaluation that we are here today to witness. Further, let me underscore the importance of a legal review to address political parties' nomination rules and procedures, as well as party primaries and party lists that affect women's political representation. So you may wonder, where does UN Women come in on what we are discussing today? We are a very interested key stakeholder with our partners and as well as all the women of this country and all the men that also believe in gender equality. And we know that part of the reasons why Kenya has struggled so much, that finds us Kenya at the bottom. If we are to talk in terms of leagues, I know that we are a soccer nation as Kenya. So Kenya sits at the bottom of the league so well in terms of, being the leader in politics, and the just ended election, I think, also set the bar really high for all other countries in terms of how to hold peaceful elections that are credible. Kenya leads a robust discussion just before the session started, and we acknowledge the progress that we are making, but we also agree that there is more that we can do so that we also take our rightful place where we are talking of women's representation in politics and in decision making. So at 23.4%, I believe, or maybe just 24%, we are below most of the countries in the East African region that have reached the minimum 30%, and yet also to remind ourselves that the today to bear that in mind and really come across, the importance of political parties working hand in hand with the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties to implement the 2/3 gender rule at political party level is challenged in the Katiba Institute versus IEBC ruling of 2017. Because we know that a lot of the work that we are talking about, 2/3 at the national level, can also be done and should also be done through the political parties and the structures and the systems that they have in place for nomination, for the primaries, and for the party lists that are then submitted to the IEBC. So there's a lot that can happen, but also apart from that, there's a lot that all of us can do in terms of really highlighting and showcasing the ORPP and its partners. So that's all of it.
And other elections, if you plot it, you would see that typically for us it would be a normal distribution curve. The only difference being that this election, so speaking very frankly, was a little challenging, because for the first time for us as a country, we had to dedicate the entire nation to prayer. We had to kneel down, and I have never prayed for an election to the extent my family was asking, was I expecting to be given some job or something after the elections? Was I praying for a particular candidate? Absolutely not. For the first time, we noticed that government can also have different candidates within government. You have the deputy president, who is now president, and the former prime minister, who was the government's candidate then. And so that was quite challenging. But what did we do? We did basically several things. Number one is to commit this country to prayer across the country, our youth, everybody else. And as you saw, this country was most peaceful during the elections. Even from police reports, there were very few incidences, even of the normal burglary and theft and crime. We also participated in ensuring that we have the infrastructure supported that delivers an election. We gave support to institutions like IEBC, ORPP, all the institutions, the police, so that we have confidence and we let them do their job. Contestations, we urge our fellow Kenyans to contest them through the laid down procedures. Otherwise, you would have a situation of anarchy. And that's, we did that, I think, very well. And Kenyans responded. And the other thing we did, of course, was immediately after the declaration, of course, tensions were quite high. And someone made reference to the shuttle diplomacy. And we had to do pastoral care to all the key leaders who were involved in the elections who played, including the IEBC itself that was divided, speaking to the different factions then that have emerged, and the leaders, including current president, former president, and the Honorable Prime Minister. We have been part of the Uwiano platform with ORPP, and despite our checkered history, I can tell you for free, and this is not regardless of the nature of elections, which is contentious anyways, that these elections had very many things that were positive about the manner in which it was conducted. And ORPP this time all the institutions took it a notch higher, and there are very many things that we can learn from these elections. ORPP did a fantastic job. I engaged with them. I remember one time I wanted to register just to try the system. Things worked, and there were great improvements in our election infrastructure. Very great. Despite all the challenges that we have in an election, you will always have, like they say, boys will be boys, politicians will be politicians, and there will be contestations about elections. But I want to stop there and say that the essence of this, and I congratulate ORPP, I think the timing is right. First of all, when God wills, is the right time. So I think it was God meant that it should be launched today, and we should be here with the Honorable Justin Muturi and everybody here to listen to you today. And it is, I would say, humanly, it's also the right time, because it's a time when we're making reflections. Had it come earlier, you had to let things settle down and let everything take its own bearing. But now we're looking at, we have the bipartisan committee of parliament, and we have talks in the air, and we're trying to have that dialogue about where we want to go as a nation. And I think it is right. I wish to congratulate you. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. Thank you so much, RCK Executive Director, Bwana Abdi Rahman Ismail. And let me invite Reverend Justin Muturi, who is his General Secretary of the NCCK, to also make his remarks.
The Honorable Attorney General of Kenya, Honorable Justin Muturi, the Registrar of Political Parties in Kenya, and Delito, the Member of Parliament and a Member of JLAC, Honorable Kabushia, the Swedish Ambassador, Her Excellency Caroline Bisini, the UN Representative, and Mutavati, the leadership of ORPP. Kenya is a good place, and we're in a good country. We may have a few issues which we are dealing with. And my colleague and friend, has raised the things that we did during elections. And I know some people had the election. We stood with IBC. That process of election comes to an end. I want to make just a few remarks to help us move forward. First is to say that multi-party democracy in Kenya, perhaps we are the case study of one of the most vibrant multi-party democracy in Africa. Many of our neighbors do not have a vibrant tool, except the president himself. So, even as we look at evaluating our capacity, our performance around political party, and as someone who has observed the election during that period, I have observed three things that are very, very common. One is the competition, cutthroat competition by the political parties, and they are here. And that's what we wanted. If you look at our documents in NCSK, we said we wanted a competitive political process. So there's nothing wrong with the competition. There's nothing wrong with the competition. The only thing is it comes with a consequence of division. The other one is that polling is always peaceful. People vote peacefully. The last election was one of the most peaceful elections we ever held. The police did very well. The civil society did very well. The government department did very well. The candidate did very well. And we had a peaceful election. The third issue is the pull and push that comes after the election. And this is now where the politicians have a feel the aftermath of the election. How do we deal with those who feel that we haven't settled the matter? And I don't want to go into that because as religious leaders, we have been doing shadow diplomacy in helping the country settle down. We know we have had a series of mandamano for several months, and now we hope that the dialogue that is happening between the president parties. The last one I checked was at 23%. How do we build the trust levels for our people on political parties? How do we build lasting and sustainable political parties? That's one question that I think we need to ask ourselves. The second issue is to ask ourselves how we provide guardrails for our democracy. We know we have a strong constitution, we have a strong bill the other day. And if you are the one in the other side of the government, how do you tolerate dissidents and people who are opposed to the programs and policies of the government of the day? That we must find a way. And I think this is the time for us to discuss that. So we look at this report as a launching pad for that kind of debate. We also know that wherever there are issues, we end up having a pact by the elite. So that if you look at the cooperation, or you look at the Nusumkate and the Grand Coalition government, or you look at the handshake, they were all political elite pacts at the top level. But the real issues that Kenyans are asking about poverty, about inequality, about regional imbalances, about unemployment, about the cost of living, about corruption, about impunity, to discuss our issues, to deepen our democracy, to develop those guardrails that we need to guard our democracy. And therefore, today's report is going to guide us in that discussion. And we hope that all of us will have hope. Hope that things are not as bad as they seem to be. There is hope because we can all work together to perfect our imperfect democracy. God bless you.
Asante sana. Makofi kwa NCSK General Secretary Reverend Canon President. And I want to call two organizations, two speakers from these organizations. One from the Election Observation Group, that is EO. I want to invite the National Coordinator, Mule Musau, and immediately after to invite the convener from Muturi.
The Registrar of Political Parties, I've been a very good friend and Richard, and I will ride on the established protocols for all the others. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Mule Musau. I stand here on behalf of my chair, the election of the... I think it is a good time as any to have a report that takes us forward in terms of the reforms which are required within ORPP, and I'm very sure within the political parties. ORPP has actually done a very good job. I mean, the job last year, if you remember, was that ORPP, or the political parties, had registered more members than the IEBC. So we had over 25 million registered political members when they believe in even move forward. Number one, I think one of the things that we need to think about moving forward is the further institutionalization of our political parties, because they are very important vehicles about bad manners in politics. It is an issue that we need to deal with. Whether it's about those nomination processes, whether it is about the rhetoric, the incitement that comes from the political space, whether it's about players jumping from this party to the other party, whether it is those in parliament not adhering to their political parties, there's a lot of work which is needed, reflected on the question of how do we secure the interests of the members of political parties. You know, we keep talking about political parties, but there's a membership. So if we are to take Registrar's word for it that there are 25 million plus members in this country, how do we secure those interests within the political parties, those very important vehicles? It's an issue that we must conduct very good electoral reforms is fast closing. We have, I think, until end of next year, if you work with our calendars, to really have done something. It's going to offer us an opportunity.
Guest, Honorable JB Muturi, the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, of the invitation by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties to the Uchaguzi platform. The Uchaguzi platform would like to thankfully extend our support to the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, and for this occasion on the launch of their 2022 post-election evaluation report. Receive hearty congratulations from CRECO and the Uchaguzi platform, and also support towards this event. On the 19th of July 2022, platform is post-general elections and championing for timely administrative and legal electoral reforms geared towards enhancing democratic space in Kenya, as well as also 2010. Articles 3, 42, 10, 81, and all other enabling principles call for integrity, accountability, and transparency in Kenya's electoral process. Further, the Constitution of Kenya envisions that the electoral system shall comply with the following principles, and it's very important that the Republic of Kenya shall be a multi-party democratic state founded on national values and principles of governance. Freedom of citizens to exercise their political rights under Article 38. Not more influence or corruption. Conducted by an independent body. Transparent and administered in an impartial, neutral, efficient, accurate, and accountable manner. And I believe this morning, the discussions that we are going to have based on the launch of this report by the ORPP should be key questions that we are going to be asking ourselves. The August 2022 general elections in Kenya were a defining moment on the country's history because it was the third general elections after the promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Last week, the Uchaguzi platform launched the National Post-Election Symposium report, and in our report, we have documented that during the party primaries in 2022, out of the 98 registered political parties, 78 participated in the elections. Out of these 98 registered political parties, 49 of the parties secured elective positions. This was the highest number of registered political parties. We need to ask ourselves a key question. Why the 20 political parties did not field candidates in the 2022 general elections? On the performance of the political parties in 2022, we observed in our report that during the party primaries,
there were challenges as the party lists requiring that the parties to comply with what was required of them by the law. On electoral dispute resolutions, the institutionalization and enhanced efficacy of internal dispute resolution mechanism resulted in a decrease in number of electoral disputes to a tune of up to 60%, and the change modes of nominations, direct and indirect, as well as expansion and decentralization of the political parties' dispute tribunals. As Uchaguzi platform, we encourage political parties to be pro-people, increase the level of public participation in their electoral and governance processes, support civic awareness, especially among women, youth, and marginalized groups. Also, since political parties are publicly funded taxpayers' money, they must support actions that reduce impunity or disregard for the rule of law, enhance political justice, and cement national cohesion and integration in our beloved country. In conclusion, the realization of credible, free, fair, and peaceful political party affairs will take the active involvement of all of us. Our concerted efforts are needed to ensure that human rights, electoral justice, for listening and your attention.
Asante sana. JB Muturi representing Uchaguzi platform. Mabibi na mabwana sijui mnakumbuka? Hiyo jina ilikuwa popular sana sio? Ingine ilikuwa Azimio. Sasa ilikuwa nini? Boda boda. Wamenyamaziwa tu jamani. Na tuko na mwakilishi wa boda boda hapa. Kile mpata. Ndio sema maneno machache kidogo. Dakika 2 tafadhali. Hao wangwana walikuwa wapiga kura wengi sana. Maelfu ya walijitokeza.
Thank you very much. Our chief guest, Honorable Justin Muturi, the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, Madam Anna Madi, the Registrar of Political Parties, all protocols observed. Hamjambo. Good morning. Good morning. I'm very proud of Kenya, and as a sector, I represent over 1.8 million young people. 90% of those people are young people. Young people who depend on the peace and stability of this country. Our life depends when the country is peaceful. When the country has chaos, we can't even survive as a border riders because we carry people from a country that has political stability. And Madam Anne, I want to appreciate you for the good work you're doing across the country.
Known as PPLC, where Vice Chairperson Chris Kilonzo will be representing the organization. And immediately after, let me invite from the Political Parties Dispute Tribunal, which is popularly known as PPDT, the CEO, Maura Kamati, to come shortly after. Thank you so much. 2 minutes.
The Attorney General, Honorable Justice Muturi, Madam Registrar, Assistant Registrars, officers from the ORPP, distinguished guests, all my honorable colleagues present, good morning. My name is Christopher Kilonzo, the Vice Chair, Political Parties Committee. The Chairman would have liked to attend this function, but is on duty representing PPLC in the ongoing IEBC selection panel deliberations to review and shortlist the forthcoming IEBC commissioners and chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, globally elections have become virtually universal. However, in many countries where they are held, opportunities for freedom and democracy have been put on trial after resulting in detrimental violence. Political steps to settle political rivalry peacefully and democratically, in reality, they easily turn into political conflict, as witnessed for a couple of months now. And this is one of the many reasons under Section 38 of the Political Parties Act of 2011. The principal function of providing a platform for dialogue between all fully registered political parties, the Registrar of Political Parties, the IEBC, and other stakeholders in electoral processes. Affirmatively, we exist in multi-party democracy, as the reason we are here in solidarity with the Office of Registrar of Political Parties as they launch their post-election evaluation report in a gesture of our partnership as enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. However, having attended previous similar post-election evaluations, launched forums from the IEBC, EU, and ELOG, including this one by ORPP. I've observed that political parties' involvement is minimal, making it difficult for the political parties to take ownership of such reports. Which brings us to the question that we should all ask ourselves: why and what are we evaluating? The PPLC recommends the allocation of resources to launch an independent review and report of the post-election evaluation. Only through this will political parties take ownership of the results with finality. As the PPLC, we recognize various challenges that we face in our quest to realize our mandate. And from our plenary deliberations, in which the ORPP is always represented, the majority of political parties are particularly raising matters on resources, despite the issuance of political parties fund, which only a few political parties get access. On the same again, it's clear that PPLC has been playing a key role in maintaining political stability in the country since its enactment. This is evident from the outcome of the pre-election PPLC peace caravans that were held in selected counties all over Kenya, and which the ORPP was fully involved. On the flip side, the constitutional role of PPLC has been considerably diminished, possibly due to the previous political stability that Kenya has enjoyed in the last couple of years, and thereby creating room for its funding to be slashed by the powers that be. I want to call upon the Registrar of Political Parties to support and protect the enhancement of the political party liaison committee allocations to avoid a situation where the budget allocated is predetermined categorically for plenary. This approach obstructs the full capacity of PPLC and the means to explore new and innovative ways that will further progress our democracy and guarantee free and fair elections come 2027 and beyond. Our participation in this launch of the post-election evaluation report year, which also happened to be an election year. 1. IPMS. This integrated system of managing political party membership, recruitment and resignation has evolved gradually and progressively dedication on seeing August elections. Madam Registrar, upon reflecting on where we are as a country and fully cognizant of the current political quagmire, I would like to use this opportunity to say that PPLC has strongly recommended a national dialogue that is all-inclusive and represents all political parties as they collectively are the key stakeholders in elections. Nevertheless, we encourage the ongoing bipartisan talks to recognize and respect the constitutional mandate of the PPLC on matters national, political, and electoral dialogue. Finally, I, on behalf of political parties, congratulate you on your successful conduct and preparation and the launch of the
Honorable Justin Muturi, and Madam Anne Derito, Registrar of Political Parties, Member of JIRAC, Honorable Kagusha, UN Women Representative, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm here representing the chairperson of political parties, not political parties, but dispute tribunal, Desmond Nyungo. And I will anchor my remarks on the mandate of the PPDT. Parties, disputes between members of a political party and political party itself, disputes between political parties, disputes between independent appeals from decisions of Registrar of Political Parties. The reason I have outlined that is to show the linkage between the PPDT and the ORPP. And in the evaluation report, it's very crucial that their processes are very efficient. As you will see, whatever comes from the processes within the political parties, that is the first tier, and maybe the ORPP, the second tier in dispute resolutions, they all will end up at PPDT, and therefore we would wish to have a very conducive environment and a process through which disputes are resolved within the best environment. Therefore, this evaluation report is very crucial to PPDT. We have done some peer evaluation with the Registrar of Political Parties, and we hope our sentiments and our contributions are actually recognized within that report. It's within that we continuously will improve the democratic space through which the political parties thrive, and of course it translates to very peaceful election to ensure that the next cycle of election will be attained, or rather will be conducted within a very peaceful political party environment. It's also a good note to say that this report will also challenge other stakeholders in the electoral cycle, the duty holders, to ensure that they also launch their own reports, that is, to show where or what worked and what didn't work. And therefore, I wish to take this opportunity to congratulate the office and hope this milestone will mark a very focal foundation through which we will be able to operate the next level of the electoral cycle, that is 2027. With those very many remarks, thanks and God bless.
Asante sana. Thank you so much, CEO, for those kind remarks. Now we want to talk about security and also talk about peace. And amongst us is a wonderful lady who is in the National Police Service. She serves as a spokesperson. I'm talking about none other than Dr. Zila Atieno to come and make a few remarks about the situation, security, and of course, tying it to the evaluation report that they're likely to launch today.
Thanks, the Ambassador of Sweden, the representatives of the UN Women, all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Inspector General National Police Service, Mr. Japhet Koome, I'd like to make a few remarks about our role last year in the general elections. In accordance with the Constitution, our mandate is to create a conducive environment where, as Kenyans, you exercise your democratic right to vote. And last year, we did exactly that. Some speakers ahead of me have already confirmed that the National Police Service, we did very well. And so we look forward as a service to reading the report, because this report, there is always room for improvement. And just to mention that one of the elaborate measures we took as the National Police Service last year was to come up with a manual that we used to prepare the commanders at the region and at the county level, all the way up to the station levels, in a way that we could enhance our uniformity in the way we provided security last year. And so we look forward to reading the report so that as a best practice we may improve moving forward. Otherwise, we remain committed as the National Police Service to serve our country in our capacity, which is to serve and to protect. And as a member of the discipline services, we have very few words, and so I end. Thank you.
Asante. Makofi sana to Dr. Zila.
Thank you, Nimrod. Chief guest, the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, Registrar of Political Parties. I'll start by saying that, just as the police spokesperson has said, I also belong to the disciplined. So, the last general election, as the chairman of the respective county security committees, we also ensure that the SOPs were in line with the government spirit of multi-agency, and that's what we did, and the election was peaceful in the counties we are representing then. So, distinguished guests have spoken and others will talk, but mine is to appreciate the Registrar of Political Parties for ensuring that this report is launched. And I want to also caution my friend from Border Association. He said that for them or for their business to thrive, they require a peaceful environment. But what we have seen across the country is that members of Border have also extended some sort of impunity to road users. True or false? Wakikupata, bahati mbaya. It's important that you also caution your members to be peace ambassadors across the country, sending the from the various Kenyans who are interested, and the submissions can be submitted via email at Bruce House, 14th floor. In conclusion, will be launched here, will serve as a valuable tool for enhancing Kenya's democratic process. Also an opportunity for us to learn from our past experiences and work towards building a stronger and more inclusive electoral process. We'll also have our own postmortem after this launch, so that we reflect on the challenges and, of course, recommendations.
The Commission, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties and political parties engage through the Parties Act and the IBC Act. We know we are joined at the hip. Your success is our success, and if you fail, we will not proceed. So we are happy that you are launching this report. We all operate in the same ecosystem. So that information flows from office to political parties and the Registrar of Political Parties. This has greatly improved since the establishment of the Commission, and following the Constitution confers upon the Commission the mandate to regulate the process by which political parties nominate candidates for elections, nomination rules of a coalition party. That created and foreseen overlasting the dollars usually is the
popularly known as IBC. Ladies and gentlemen, the election donor group and the friendly countries to our motherland Kenya have been an important group. They've held our hands in terms of funding sometimes in terms of human resource.
Country representative of UN Women, my friend Anna Gavadi, chairpersons and heads of various organizations here, all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen. This morning has been a trip down the memory lane for me. I've been here for 3 years now, and I've lived and breathed this election all along. I have seen so many partners and friends here with whom we have discussed, we have learned from, we have strategized, and that are contributing in the way we can and in the way we are allowed to the election processes here in Kenya. Sweden, for its part, are one of the greatest supporters of UN Women globally, and we have also provided through the Oslo Center support to the ORPP and to the political parties in strengthening the sort of core of the political parties and those organizations. The elections, as many have pointed out here, was a roller coaster ride. And we were there as international community until the bitter end. When there was a risk that we would get a chair in the head, at the very bitter end, we were whisked out because an ambassador with a wounded ambassador is never good for the host country. So then we were taken out. And then we have accompanied also the post-election process, and we will continue to do that all along. I want to say that for us, for Sweden, for my fellow diplomatic colleagues, Kenya is really a beacon on this continent. I think we have all with sadness observed what is happening on the other coast. And I believe the African citizens, the people here, all would like to live in a democracy rather than under a military dictator. So, heavy burden to carry, but I just want to point out that. Democracy, including free and fair elections, freedom of association, free every day. We have seen that on the European continent, either by yourself or by ourselves. It's a continuous struggle, and the risk of backsliding is always there. There is, and I think that is the basis here that has to be worked on. Elections all the way out in the mice fields. I was in these small schools, in the youth of Kenya that are doing this very basic but extremely important work under very difficult conditions. So allow them at the table. The Boda Boda riders, I want to say it's good that they're engaged, but it's 100% male-dominated profession involved in this process, and we are ready to stand by you. And if anybody is interested of who are members of this group,
it's simply known that the people of Nyeri were kind enough to donate him to the national politics. Sasana represents a constituency called Mukuri, right? And I know this gentleman is very, very passionate, very, very articulate, especially when expressing the agenda of the Kenya government led by President William Ruto. But today he's going to speak to us as a member of the Justice and Legal Affairs Commission. Like I said, he's very, very articulate. He shares a studio set with some of us. Nasikia nakutaka pale 5:30 asubuhi. Na kipindi inaanza 6:30. Kujitolea. Nasikia jana naibu wa rais akidai kuna viongozi wengine they shy away from TV. He's not one of them. Huyu hata ukimpigia sit of sit. Kuja. Tangu nchini mheshimiwa.
Begin political rights through the registration and regulation of political parties in Kenya. The Office of the Registrar of Political Parties has this has in turn contributed to the realization of free and fair elections. Our distinguished guests, it's laudable that you have taken time to review and analyze together a multi-party system. As a supervisory body of political parties, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties plays a vital role in the stability and prosperity of our country's democracy and governance. It is therefore imperative that it has a requisite capacity to enable it to carry out its functions effectively. I take cognizance of the fact that pursuant to Section 34 of the Political Parties Act 2011 provides for one of the functions of the ORPP as the regulation of political party nomination. The ambassador has said it will also add the good ladies in the country, and I second that. Of course, the Kenya government, my brother, has not in any way forgotten the Boda Boda guys. That is why you see any person who wants to organize a meeting of this nature must, as a matter of importance, of course, bring on board the Boda Boda people, because we are now operating under what we call the better bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which incorporates all the sectors and all the players. That is why today you have the Boda Boda people here. That's why they are not forgotten. That is why they are here. And of course, you saw in the last, I think 1 or 2 weeks, Nimrod, you must have seen the president launching something we call the whatever it is. And we buried her, and we forgot about her. And I know the death came from the pressure. You know, when I want to address the interreligious groups, we find... God bless you. Thank you very much, and good morning.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Tausha. At least I warned you earlier that he's very articulate and passionate about politics and governance in the country, isn't it? Before I invite the next key speakers to give us an address, the only two, I'd like to invite Orlando C. He's a poet. He's going to recite spoken word. Please give him all your ears.
Yo, how you doing? How you doing? I want to go to the moon. I want to go to the moon. That's why. Uzuri chipsi na kazi. So maybe huko juu kwa moon weza pata kitu mwisho wa mwezi. Before I continue, I'd like to say something very important. You people look absolutely awesome. You look absolutely awesome today. You should clap for yourselves. Clap for yourselves. And the energy is so awesome as people socializing, talking to each other, not even minding each other's second names. That is really awesome. If someone enters into that door, they will not be able to know that people come from different tribes or probably support different political parties. And that is something that we should continue to protect, the unity despite the differences. I don't know about you, but what I've said in the last 10 seconds deserves a round of applause. A piece of cake. So peace is sweet. Without peace, a country is not complete. It's not complete. A country without peace is like your favorite song without the beat. A country without peace is like sauna without the heat. A country without peace, I can't go for a date because all of us will be indoors, so the two of us can't meet. A country without peace is like a buffet without a piece of meat. A country without peace is like Twitter without. A country without peace is like Twitter without the tweet. You see, sauna without the heat, Twitter without the tweet. So if you can't embrace peace, then no matter how good looking and smart you are, to be your throat knit, a person who doesn't love peace is like baggy clothes on a thin person. You don't fit. A country where people don't observe laws, it's hard to make profit. Rosen was like a teacher. And all of you attended that class, so I hope all of you got taught. I hope you learned that even tall people get short. My mother is a Kikuyu, and my pa, and my dad is a Luo. If these two tribes were fighting each other, then the two lovebirds would have never met, and I fear that I will not be here. Tutakuwa amani. Tule na meshikilia gas na mule na meshikilia mawe ni the same people na ni the same brothers. So mama anabaki na machozi ndugu alisahau ndugu cha kiongozi. Chunga. Na ule mwenye ana unga anaenda kuharibu biashara yule mwenye anatafuta unga. Violence gives birth to problems. It's so sad that kwa hii maternity room ya violence huwezi kubaina mama. Yo, I don't know about you, but the purpose will be indebted to my pain. And this economy, that is something I will not drop the mic, but I will come to the facts. And while they teach, you can make me a mic dropper. I know you are going to be a man of wisdom, so I will be a mic dropper. I know there's nothing like that, but you can work with it. So when you go for your speeches, I'll be there. Doing nothing, just holding a bunch of mics. Anytime you want to wisdom the club, I drop one. You see, I can't without peace, you can't have, right? You see, hawa vijana watakadaji pesa ya kupigana kama wewe mheshimiwa hauna kazi, haufanyi kazi yako. So ni maswali, wewe kama mheshimiwa, ahadi zako ni nini? Unaanza kutimiza. Wacha kuangalia mwenzako, ni wewe nauliza. Kama ulipromise ndege, tupatie ndege, usitupatie bike. Na fupi kiwa safi, kila mtu apate. Au pia kuna. So hatutaki sasa kuna. After 5 years umezangalia nyuma useme kilichofanya hiki. After 5 years sitaki kusema tulipatia ni reflector na kofia za pikipiki. Timiza. Tunataka maendeleo, hatutaki kuona vijana viongozi wa kesho wakipigana leo. Tunataka maendeleo, hatutaki kuona viongozi wa kesho wakipigana leo. Ambia mwenzako tunataka maendeleo. Ambia mwenzako tunataka maendeleo. Hatutaki kuona viongozi wa kesho wakipigana leo. I go by the name Brian TK. I'm a Kolana Sig. So kinita Kolana Sig siwezi kataa. Tukipatana huko nje wa Mungu niletai pia siwezi kataa. Mungu awabariki.
Makofi kabisa. Naweza drop mic pale page kwa baadaye. Asante sana Baranda. Those were deep words, right? Makofi tena kwa. Truly spoken from a mind for youth in this country. Na ni wengi wako hapa, wengine tunawazungumzia baadaye. It is now my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to invite our host today, the Registrar of Political Parties, to share with us the overview of the ORPP post-election evaluation report here today. Madam Anne to CBS. Makofi.
Thank you. Our chief guest, the Honorable Anne Muturi, the Interregional Uchaguzi Platform, Political Parties Liaison Committee, and all the political parties leaders present here, the Chief Officer, report. Thank you so much for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, the central position of political parties in democracy cannot be concealed. Political parties form the foundation of democracy. They are the agencies that gather different views, diverse issues, and present them to citizens for debate. Some of the views end up as governance policy. Currently, Kenya has 90 registered elections, mark the second election that was the political parties liaison. In previous elections, political parties are key players in elections, and therefore the ORPP, as a regulator of political parties, and ready to collaborate with the timelines for IBC.
Before I make, I have a very long speech, but I have an abridged version. Here, Frank at CMD. Hey, it's too many friends from the political class. The reason I'm talking about, I'm saying the country, I was the opposition. I almost nearly reminded us about it in his recitals. Talked about the that class of 2007. And as a consequence, because the National Accord brought the need now, is a Political Parties Act in 2011, being number 10. Is that the number? Number 10. It's among the very first ones to be passed. Because the promulgated Articles 91 and 92 were very clear. Fresh amendments to the Political Parties Act, which resulted in some more vast things, I still believe it was a mongrel. It was unnecessary. We are trying to accommodate but they want to force, and they forced. The most annoying bit was when, and I thought, the reason why we have two houses in Parliament, when we were not able to sort it out in the National Assembly, I spoke to my friends in the Senate, they told me, because this thing must be considered by the Senate. Mule. And so I spoke to my friends. I will not mention their names, they are still in Senate, so they may be harassed by their parties. And we agreed on that we were going to vote, proposing to remove those things, and I was going to ensure that we were going to cause a stalemate. And because time was moving, that was January. So if Senate made amendments to what the National Assembly had passed, then there would have to be a mediation and Article 113. So, but unfortunately, the members of that, my friends, they may not, were not to make even a comma, introduce a comma to the report that had come from the National Assembly. In fact, as the Senate was discussing that bill, Mheshimiwa John Kagusi, as the Senate was discussing, you know where, for the signing of, how can it be necessary for their growth, in this country? We have to write the evaluation reports this early, and I'm happy because I know since this moment, read this report. Whatever needs to be done in order to give you the necessary fertilizer to enable you to grow and sprout should be done now. No, the procedure, when they finish, the Speaker there has to write back to the Speaker of the National Assembly to say, we have passed it without any amendments, so that then I would read it to my house and say, now the Senate has passed without amendment and therefore forward it for assent. But it was already read, it was ready for assent, even as Senate was debating. So I called some of my friends and I asked them, what are you doing? They said, no, we think we can make some amendments. I said, but I'm being invited to attend the signing ceremony for the same bill. So this mongrel which was created through that amendment, it was something that to actually force down the throat of the House of Parliament. Because at that time, things were good and everybody understood. But no sooner than the thing was endorsed, and we started hearing many parties say, oh, we have not been shown, what are we signing to, what have we signed? And indeed it is true. I've seen those documents. People having signed this one, don't worry, we will put in the details. So you append your signature. I think also, as a country, our political leaders, now that I have resigned as a leader of a political party, let us not also be so desperate. Because why would you sign to a blank piece of paper? And then the next day you are saying, oh, no, you say you have bound me, I can't resign, I can't pull out until after 6 months. I think even as political class, we need also to begin to inculcate in ourselves better standards of political behavior. Maybe the citizenry seems to pick the behavior of certain political leaders and assume that that is the behavior of all political parties. I know the work many of them can help you to do in increasing political awareness in our country. And I think we must move away from discussing, debating individuals. Let us, and this is the forum, political parties. This is where we need to be. Let us move away from dealing with individuals. Let us dissolve the Registrar of Political Parties. In fact, now that it's just as good that you're saying yes. Another point I hold quite dear, and you are the people that can force this. We forced Frank and Amanda Little, Felix. They know how we fought to secure the position of the PPLC. How we fought to secure in the Political Parties Act the place for the PPDT. Because we felt that there must be some forum where political parties can be able to meet when there is tension in the country, when there is tension in the country, especially before a general election. Political parties should be able to meet regularly in a forum. Political parties, through the Political Parties Liaison Committee. And I'm disappointed that the so-called major parties, Mheshimiwa Kagushi, you are here, you belong to the UDA, if you ask them, they don't know. Many of the big parties in Kenya today, I'm throwing a challenge to the major political parties to appreciate the place for inter-party dialogue. It will only happen through that committee. It is there. It's like in Section 38 of the Political Parties Act, isn't it? I've never forgotten, because I know how hard we fought about it. From there we saw the need, because too many cases being taken to courts of law. We thought, why don't we create another forum where there could be a dispute resolution mechanism between parties, or indeed, if the one within a party has failed, you can escalate your dispute to another forum, not the formal ones of the courts of law. That's how we came up with the idea of the Political Parties Dispute Tribunal. So I think the framework is there. Chair, the framework is there. I know it has always been a problem. I saw somebody doing like this. I know. From the one go, it was always a challenge. And I must say that in those days when I was chair at CMD, it was a little easier, because then we would always be able to operate. And a few other people, NBI among them, Felix would always come to our aid whenever we needed to have meetings. But it is possible. It is possible to provide for the expenses of the PPLC. Unless we don't appreciate the place of political parties in the governance of our country, we should be able to provide for the running expenses of the PPLC mechanism within the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. But also for that to happen, this is another one of my now wild ideas. We have the Office of the Auditor General. We also have the Office of the Controller of Budget. We have the Office of the Attorney General. We have the Office of the DPP. As independent offices, why can't we make the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties another of our independent offices in our country. I take this opportunity to commend and congratulate the Office of the Registrar for this noble effort of coming up with a post-election evaluation report for the 2022 general elections, which I think is also an improvement and is based on some lessons learned in the past. And therefore, I think I want to encourage every one of us to take time to read the report so that as we prepare, because there will always be elections after every 5 years, as we prepare, we don't leave everything to the interreligious council to always be on their knees, as he said. If you remember what he says, please, because when we prepare based on
Thank you so much. Makofi zaidi tafadhali kwa mgeni wa heshima. Thank you so much. Asante sana. And now we come to the time that we've all been waiting for. It's time to celebrate the official launch of the report. And I'd like to invite our chief guest, the Honorable Attorney General Justin B Muturi. I'd like to invite the Registrar of Political Parties, Madam Anne Deritu. I'd like to invite Mheshimiwa John Kagushia, the Member of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. I'd like to invite the Swedish Ambassador as well to come to the front. And then also I'd like to invite you also to come and help us. There will be a cutting of ribbon, and then we'll be having a bit of fanfare, and Helen and Sawadi and the African band help us in the celebration. And we'll do this to the count of 5, you'll be able to cut the ribbon. As it goes up the stairs to officially launch the post-election evaluation report. Makofi kabisa, makofi. Asante sana. Asante. As the official launch, there will be a presentation of some of the reports. As we do a small brief ceremony for gift presentations, as well as